Oh man, what a time. We've got Christmas, playoff spots that can be clinched this week, and we even get 2 games on Christmas. Wait, we have 2 games on Christmas? That's on a Wednesday! Oh man, I gotta get this video out early! What's going on, guys? Dick's Report here, back to another video. Today we are talking about Week 17. Playoff spots are on the line, everybody, and you could easily be out as much as you can be in. Let's break down these games. Alright, our first Christmas game is going to be Kansas City traveling to Pittsburgh, and for Pittsburgh, that was a tough loss to the Ravens. It really was. They have an opportunity to clinch the AFC North, and they just couldn't get out of their own way. Pretty much Baltimore did what they would normally do to Baltimore the last few times that they played them. Not few, they won 8 of the last 9 before them, but you guys get my point. They had an opportunity, and they couldn't take it. Now, they cannot clinch the division this week, but they still control their own destiny. They just have to win their last 2. Unfortunately, they got Kansas City in their way, and Kansas City is looking to lock up the #1 seed. Yes, I know, worst 13-1 team in NFL history, or 14-1 now. My bad, worst 14-1. I get that, but they're 14-1, have an opportunity to clinch the #1 seed. I say they get it done. Give me Kansas City over Pittsburgh. Second matchup is going to be Baltimore taking on Houston. For Houston, they already have the AFC South, and while they're not locked into the 4th seed just yet, they're just about, I would say just about locked into that seed, especially if they lose this game to the Ravens. You can pretty much pencil them in. 4th seed, they're taking on the 5th seed. Meanwhile, for Baltimore, they need Pittsburgh to lose one of their games, and then they need to win their last 2. This is going to be big for them. Get a win here, and then you get 11 days to get ready for Cleveland. Unfortunately, I'm going to go with Houston over Baltimore. I just think they're going to be ready to play, especially after what happened to Tank Dell. Hopefully, he has a speedy recovery, and we see him back on the NFL field. That was just rough. And it really was. We have a Thursday night game, too. It's going to be Seattle taking on Chicago. And for Chicago, there's not much more I can say. I mean, they just fell apart after the play. And I think all you know what I mean by the play. It just hasn't been right for them. Caleb Williams, it hasn't been great for him. And right now for Chicago, the biggest thing for them, they cannot screw up another head coaching search. Get it right this offseason, Bears. Get it right. Meanwhile, for Seattle, they are still in it for the division, but they have to win their last 2. They win the last 2, they get the division. Is it going to happen? I say they get it done against Chicago, but Week 18 is going to be the final factor into this. 3 games on Saturday, so we get 2 Christmas games, a Thursday game, and 3 Saturday games. Very interesting. The first one's going to be the Chargers taking on New England. For New England, right now, I think they're in a great position because they know they have a quarterback in Drake May, and they know they're going to have a lot of cap space in the offseason to where they can fill in what they need help in, not to mention high draft picks that can also help them out as well. So if New England does everything right during the offseason, they could be competitive next year. But still have 2 games left, and yeah, it's been rough for them. Meanwhile, for the Chargers, it's about as simple as this, guys. Win, you're in. Win, you're in. Give me the Chargers over the Patriots. Denver taking on Cincinnati. Cincinnati, they still have a slim hope of making the playoffs, a slim hope, but they have to win their last 2 games. Meanwhile, for Denver, it's just like the Chargers. Win, you're in. It's going to be tough because you're facing off against Cincinnati this week, and you could be facing off a Chiefs team that is coming off a loss to Pittsburgh and needs this win to clinch the #1 seed. I'm actually going to go with Cincinnati over Denver. I mean, Joe Burrow and that offense, they are on fire right now, and I don't know if Bo Nix and the Bronco offense can keep up with them. Alright, our last Saturday game is going to be Arizona taking on the Rams. Arizona, they are out of the playoff race. However, they could play spoiler to the Rams if they could pull off an upset here. Meanwhile, for the Rams, they win, Seattle loses, they have the division. Now, I already have Seattle beating Chicago on Thursday. However, I do have the Rams beating the Cardinals this week, setting up a Week 18 matchup for the division. Indianapolis taking on the Giants. Indianapolis, just like Cincinnati, they have a slim possibility of making the playoffs, but they have to win their last 2 games. Meanwhile, for the Giants, they are in the driver's seat for the number 1 overall pick. I don't think that's going to stop. Give me the Colts over the Giants. Jets taking on Buffalo. Buffalo, they got the division. They're still in it for the number 1 seed. You know they're going to be playing their starters. Josh Allen, he is playing like an MVP. Meanwhile, for the Jets, I've said it before, I'm going to say it again, most disappointing team in the NFL this year. Don't have much more to say other than that. Give me the Bills over the Jets. Tennessee taking on Jacksonville, a matchup of 2 really bad teams. Sorry, I can't think of any nicer way to put it. Tennessee, I think they're clearly going quarterback shopping during the offseason. Now, whether that's going for a veteran or a rookie, we will find out. Meanwhile, for Jacksonville, there's one thing I want them to do this offseason. It's find a new GM. Time to get rid of Trent Baalke. It's not working out, Jacksonville. Time to get him out of Duval. As for this game, I'm going to go Titans over Jacksonville. Raiders taking on the Saints. For the Saints, man, it feels like 2-0 was a long time ago, doesn't it? Can't believe the Saints started off the season like that. Meanwhile, for the Raiders, their quest for a quarterback in the draft took a huge hit after winning against the Giants. They kind of lost by winning. Sort of. Who am I going to go for this game? Just give me the Saints. Carolina taking on Tampa Bay. Carolina, man, nice win against the Cardinals. Really nice. And Bryce Young, he is just looking better than what he did last year and even earlier this year. Definitely deserves that starting spot next year. Meanwhile, for Tampa Bay, ooh, man, not good for them. They no longer control their own destiny. They cannot clinch the NFC South this week, but they also cannot lose this game or else Atlanta has a chance to get this division. I'm going to go with Tampa Bay over the Panthers. Dallas taking on Philadelphia. For Dallas, they could have some fun with Philadelphia because Philadelphia still has not clinched the NFC East. If they lose their last 2 games and Washington wins their last 2, Washington could get this division. And Dallas, they have the potential to do the funniest thing if they could pull off an upset over the Eagles. And it would also be nice to just rub it in Eagles' faces that they were able to beat them. However, I got the Eagles winning the division. Give me the Eagles over the Cowboys. Miami taking on Cleveland. For Miami, just like the Colts and the Bengals, they have a slim possibility of making the playoffs if they win their last 2 games and things go their way. Meanwhile, for Cleveland, they have the potential to play spoiler both this week and next week. I'm going to go with the Dolphins over the Browns on this one. Green Bay taking on Minnesota. Now, this is going to be a fun matchup for a number of reasons. One, it's a rivalry, and this rivalry is just fun to watch. 2, Green Bay is coming out the first shutout of the season. They shut out the Saints Monday night. Minnesota, they are still in it for not only the division, but for the number 1 seed in the NFC. If they can win their last 2 games, they get the number 1 seed. But what's interesting is, if Green Bay beats Minnesota and Detroit wins their game, Detroit not only gets the division, but the number 1 seed. This is what's on the line this week. Both these teams are going to be at their best, but I still have Minnesota pulling off the victory. Atlanta taking on Washington. Washington, simple as this. Win, you're in. Win, you're in. And you still have a shot at the NFC East if the Eagles end up falling to the Cowboys. Meanwhile, for Atlanta, they win this game and Tampa Bay loses theirs. Atlanta gets the South. I'm going to go with Washington clinching the playoff spot. And our Monday night game is going to be Detroit taking on San Francisco. It's a rematch of the NFC Championship game from last year, but these teams look very different from that game. Detroit, that defense has just been ravaged with injury, and the 49ers, their whole roster has been ravaged with injuries. The thing is with Detroit, they still have the opportunity to not only win the division, but get the number 1 seed if they win and Minnesota loses. Everything that this team has been through, and they've just been able to overcome it. It's really a great story. And it's also great because I don't think since the leagues merged in 1970, I don't think Detroit's had the number 1 seed. I really don't think so. I need to look that up. I'll be honest, I do have to look that up. And I don't think that's ever happened in their history, which that would be amazing if it happens this week. And I say they get the win against San Francisco. Alright guys, those were my picks for Week 17. Let me know what you think down in the comments below. And as always, I'll see you guys next time.